Ji-won stepped through the airlock of the stellar drift with her daughter strapped to her back. The baby carrier was old but sturdy, and 6-month-old Da-yoon slept peacefully against her mother's spine. Ji-won's hands were free to carry her single bag of belongings and her work assignment tablet. The cargo bay smelled like metal and recycled air. Ji-won had worked on 3 other ships before this one, but never with Da-eun. Her childcare arrangement had fallen apart 2 days before this job started. She needed the work too badly to turn it down. A human man approached her. He was tall and wore the grease-stained uniform of an engineer. His name tag read Hyun-woo. "You must be our new cargo specialist," he said. His eyes moved to the baby carrier. "And you brought a passenger. Her name is Da-eun," Ji-won said. She kept her voice steady and professional. "My childcare situation changed suddenly. I can do my work. She will not be a problem." Hyun-woo's expression softened. Before he could respond, a sharp clicking sound echoed through the bay. Captain Vexlar emerged from the upper deck. The captain was insectoid, with 6 legs and compound eyes that reflected the overhead lights. His mandibles clicked again as he examined the new crew member. "You are Ji-won," the captain said. His voice came through a translator device. "Your credentials are excellent, but you did not mention an infant in your application." "No, sir," Ji-won replied. "The situation changed after I applied. I understand if this is a problem, but I promise you that my work will meet every standard you require." Da-eun chose that moment to wake up. She made a small sound, not quite a cry. Ji-won reached back and patted her daughter's leg through the carrier. The baby settled immediately. Captain Vexlar's antennae twitched. In his species, young were kept in protected nurseries far from any danger. The idea of bringing an infant into a working environment was strange to him. "This is highly unusual," the captain said. "I know, sir," Ji-won said. "I am asking for a chance to prove I can do this." The captain was silent for a long moment. His compound eyes studied the human woman. She stood straight, her shoulders back despite the weight of the child. There was something in her expression that reminded him of soldiers he had known. Determination born from necessity. "1-week trial," Captain Vexlar finally said. "If there are any problems, any at all, you will be removed from the crew at the next port." "Thank you, sir," Ji-won said. "You will not regret this." Hyun-woo showed Ji-won to her quarters and then to the cargo bay where she would work. The bay was massive, filled with containers of various sizes. Each one was labeled with codes that indicated contents, destination, and handling requirements. "The previous specialist left everything in a mess," Hyun-woo explained. "You will need to do a complete inventory and reorganize the storage system." "It is a lot of work. I can handle it," Ji-won said. She was already scanning the bay, her mind organizing the task into steps. Da-yoon made a cooing sound. Ji-won reached back and adjusted the carrier slightly. "If you need anything," Hyun-woo said, "I am usually in the engine room. Do not hesitate to ask." "Thank you," Ji-won said. She meant it. She started her work immediately. With her tablet in hand, she began scanning containers and checking them against the ship's manifest. Da-yoon stayed quiet on her back, warm and content. Ji-won worked efficiently, her movements practiced and sure. She had learned long ago how to work with a baby strapped to her. It was not easy, but she had no choice. After 2 hours, the first officer appeared. Kriva was reptilian, with scales that shimmered green and gold under the lights. She walked on 2 legs but had a long tail that she used for balance. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "How is the work proceeding?" Kriva asked. "I have completed Section A and started on Section B," Ji-won reported. "I found several containers that were mislabeled. I have corrected the errors in the system." Kriva's eyes widened slightly. That was faster progress than she had expected. She looked at the baby on Ji-won's back. The infant was awake now, looking around with curious eyes. "Does the young one not distract you?" Kriva asked. "She is used to it," Ji-won said simply, "and I am used to her." Kriva did not know what to make of this. In her species, eggs were laid and guarded until they hatched. Then the young were raised in groups by specialized caretakers. The idea of carrying a helpless infant while performing physical labor was alien to her. "Continue your work," Kriva said. She left, but her mind was full of questions. By the end of the first day, Ji-won had made significant progress. She had reorganized 3 sections and corrected dozens of errors in the manifest. Her back ached from the weight of Da-eun and the physical work, but she did not complain. She could not afford to show weakness. In her small quarters that night, she fed Da-eun and changed her diaper. The baby smiled up at her and Ji-won felt her heart squeeze. This was why she worked so hard. This tiny person depended on her completely. There was no safety net, no one to help if Ji-won failed. It was just the two of them against the universe. "We will be okay," Ji-won whispered to her daughter. "I promise." Da-yoon grabbed her mother's finger and held on tight. Elsewhere on the ship, Captain Vexillar reviewed the day's work reports. Ji-won's progress was impressive. He had to admit that, but he remained uncertain about the situation. An infant on a cargo ship was dangerous. If something went wrong, if the child was hurt, he would be responsible. Kriva entered the captain's office. She had been thinking about the human woman all evening. "The new cargo specialist is efficient," Kriva said. "Very efficient," yes, the captain agreed. "But the child concerns me." "The human seems capable," Kriva said. "She works as if the infant weighs nothing. I have been observing her. The young one is quiet and calm. It is strange to me, but it appears to function." Captain Vexlar clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Humans were strange creatures. They bonded intensely with their young and refused to be separated from them. He had heard stories about human parents, about the lengths they would go to protect their offspring. Perhaps this was simply another example of that fierce human nature. "We will continue to observe," the captain decided. "If she maintains this level of performance, perhaps the arrangement can continue." The next morning, Ji-won was back in the cargo bay before her shift officially started. Daegun was fed, changed, and content in her carrier. Ji-won worked through Section C, her hands moving quickly and confidently. She was determined to prove herself. This job was her chance at stability, at a future for Daeun. She would not fail. Other crew members began to notice her. Thalrix, the avian navigator, flew past the cargo bay and saw the human woman working. He had never seen someone move with such purpose while carrying a dependent young one. It puzzled him. In his species, chicks stayed in nests until they could fly. They were never carried into dangerous places, but the human continued her work without pause. She did not ask for special treatment. She did not complain. She simply did what needed to be done. By the third day, Ji-won had reorganized the entire cargo bay. The containers were properly arranged, the manifest was accurate, and the loading system was optimized. Captain Vexlar inspected the work personally. He could find no fault with it. Hyun-woo met Ji-won near the end of her shift. Tae-yun was fussing slightly, tired from the long day. "You have done excellent work," Hyun-woo said. "The cargo bay has not looked this good in years." "Thank you," Ji-won said. She reached back and patted Da-eun, soothing the baby with gentle touches. "Can I ask you something?" Hyun-woo said. "Why do you do this?" "Bringing Da-eun to work must be exhausting." Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice steady but soft. "Because she needs me," Ji-won said, "and because I need this job. So I do both. There is no other option." Hyun-woo nodded slowly. He understood now. This was not about convenience or choice. This was about survival. Ji-won was doing what she had to do because giving up was not possible. "If you ever need anything," Hyun-woo said, "you can count on me." Ji-won looked at him surprised. She had learned not to expect help from anyone. But something in Hyun-woo's expression was genuine. "Thank you," she said again. This time her voice carried a hint of emotion. That evening, the crew gathered for their meal in the common area. Ji-won ate quickly, standing near the edge of the room with Da-eun still on her back. She did not want to intrude on the established crew dynamics. She was still the newcomer, still on trial, but she noticed the looks. The crew members watched her with curiosity and something else. Not pity exactly, but a kind of puzzled respect. She was doing something they could not quite understand, and doing it well. Captain Vexlar made an announcement during the meal. They would be taking on additional cargo at the next port. It would require extra shifts and hard work from everyone. Ji-won did not hesitate. She volunteered immediately. She needed every credit she could earn. The captain's antennae twitched. He looked at the human woman with the infant on her back. She had been working for 3 days straight, and now she was volunteering for more. He did not understand humans, but he was beginning to respect them. "Very well," Captain Vexillar said. "Your dedication is noted." Later that night, Kriva and Thalrix discussed the situation in quiet tones. "The human is remarkable," Thalrix said. "She works as if she carries nothing. But I have seen the weight of the infant. It must be exhausting." The alarm started at 0300 hours. Ji-won woke instantly, her hand already reaching for Da-eun before her eyes were fully open. The baby was crying, startled by the harsh sound that filled their small quarters. "Solar radiation storm," the ship's automated voice announced. "All crew report to emergency stations. This is not a drill." Jiwan dressed quickly, pulling on her work uniform with practiced efficiency. She changed Daeun's diaper in record time, then settled the baby into the carrier on her back. Daeun was still whimpering, confused and frightened by the noise and the sudden disruption of sleep. "It is okay, my love," Jiwan murmured as she secured the straps. "Mama is here. Everything will be okay." She hurried through the corridors toward the cargo bay. Other crew members were rushing to their stations. Hyunwoo saw her and his eyes widened. "Jiwan, you should take Daeun to the shielded shelter," he said. "The radiation levels are going to spike. It is not safe for her in the cargo bay." "I know the cargo bay better than anyone," Jiwan said. "You need me there. The shelter has other people who can watch over her, but no one else knows the cargo layout like I do." Before Hyunwoo could argue, Captain Vexler's voice came over the communication system. "All hands to cargo bay immediately. We have volatile materials that must be secured before the radiation pulse hits. We have 15 minutes. Move now." Jiwan was already running. She reached the cargo bay and found chaos. Several containers had broken loose during the initial impact of the storm. Warning lights flashed red on 3 separate crates containing unstable chemical compounds. If those containers ruptured during the radiation pulse, the reaction could breach the hull. Captain Vexelar and Kriva were already there, along with Thalrix and several other crew members. Everyone looked tense. These situations were dangerous under the best circumstances. The captain saw Jiwan arrive with Daeun on her back. His mandibles clicked sharply. "Specialist Jiwan, you should not be here with the infant," he said. "Sir, I know exactly where every container needs to be secured," Jiwan said. "I reorganized this entire bay. I can save you critical time." The ship shuddered. Another wave of solar particles hit the shields. They could all feel the temperature rising. 12 minutes, Kriva reported, checking her wrist device. Captain Vexelar made a decision. He did not have time to argue. Everyone work. Jiwan, direct the securing operations. Tell us where everything goes. Hyunwoo, stay close to her. Cover her if she needs both hands. Jiwan moved immediately. She called out instructions, her voice clear and steady despite the alarms and the heat. The red-marked containers go to Section B7. Lock them with the magnetic clamps, not the standard restraints. Those yellow crates need to be separated by at least 2 meters. The chemical compounds react if they are too close together. The crew moved efficiently, following her directions without question. Jiwan worked alongside them, using one hand to operate the cargo management controls while her other hand steadied Daeun through the carrier. The baby had stopped crying but was making small distressed sounds. "It is okay, baby," Jiwan whispered between commands. "Mama is here. Just a little longer." 8 minutes, Kriva called out. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. One of the unsecured containers started to slide across the deck. Jiwan saw it immediately. "That one," she shouted, pointing. "It cannot hit the wall. It has pressure-sensitive contents. If it impacts too hard, it will explode." Thalrix launched himself into the air, his wings spread wide. He caught the container mid-slide and guided it to a safe position. Hyunwoo was there immediately to lock it down. 5 minutes, Kriva said. Her voice was tight with tension. They were running out of time. There were still 4 critical containers unsecured. Jiwan calculated quickly. They could not get to all of them using standard procedures. "Captain, if we use the emergency override on the magnetic grid, we can lock down all remaining containers simultaneously," Jiwan said. "It will drain power from secondary systems, but it will work. That has never been tested with mixed cargo types," Captain Vexelar said. "I know, sir. But we are out of time, trust me. It will work." The captain looked at her. In that moment, he saw not just a desperate human mother, but a skilled professional who knew her job completely. He made his decision. "Do it," he ordered. Jiwan's hands moved rapidly across the control panel. She entered the override codes, adjusted the magnetic field calibrations, and initiated the emergency lockdown. The cargo bay hummed with sudden power as the magnetic grid activated at maximum strength. All 4 containers slammed into position and locked down. The warning lights on the control panel turned from red to green. 2 minutes, Kriva said. "All crew evacuate cargo bay," Captain Vexelar ordered. "Get to the shielded areas now," they ran. Jiwon was slower than the others because of Daeun's weight, but Hyunwoo stayed beside her. He positioned himself to shield both of them from any debris if the cargo shifted. They reached the shielded section with 30 seconds to spare. The heavy doors sealed behind them. The crew stood in the dimly lit space, breathing hard. They had made it. Daeun started to cry. The stress and fear had finally overwhelmed the baby. Jiwon immediately began soothing her, rocking gently side to side despite her own exhaustion. "Shh, my sweet girl," Jiwon murmured. "You were so brave. So very brave. Mama is so proud of you." The radiation pulse hit the ship. They could not see it or hear it directly, but they felt the ship's systems strain under the onslaught. The lights flickered. The temperature rose another few degrees. They waited in silence, listening to Daeun's cries slowly fade to whimpers and then to quiet. After 20 minutes, the all-clear sounded. The radiation storm had passed. They were safe. Captain Vexler addressed his crew in the shielded section. "Excellent work, everyone," he said. "We had 0 cargo losses and no hull breaches. That is a remarkable achievement under these circumstances." His eyes found Jiwon, who was still gently bouncing Daeun in the carrier. "Specialist Jiwon, your knowledge of the cargo systems saved this ship and possibly all our lives. I have never seen anyone work with such efficiency under pressure." "Thank you, sir," Jiwon said quietly. "I was just doing my job." The captain clicked his mandibles in what might have been a laugh. "Your job while carrying an infant through an emergency situation. I begin to understand why humans are so highly valued on difficult assignments." The crew returned to the cargo bay to assess the situation. Everything was exactly as Jiwon had predicted. The containers were secure. The magnetic grid had held. The dangerous chemical compounds were stable and separated. It had worked perfectly. Thalrix landed beside Jiwon as she was checking the final status reports. "I have never seen anything like what you did today," he said. "In my species, we would never bring a chick into danger. But you had no choice, did you?" "No choice," Jiwon agreed. "She is my responsibility. I cannot leave her. And the crew needed me here, so we both came." "You did not falter," Thalrix said, "not once. Even when the infant cried, even when the situation became critical, you continued to work. That requires great strength." Jiwon looked down at her control pad, uncomfortable with the praise. "I did what needed to be done," she said simply. "Yes," Thalrix said softly, "you did. And we are all grateful." Later that day, after the ship had fully recovered from the storm, Kriva found Jiwon in her quarters. Daeun was finally sleeping peacefully in a small crib that someone had assembled. "Jiwon looked exhausted. May I speak with you?" Kriva asked. "Of course," Jiwon said. Kriva entered the small space. She looked at the sleeping baby, then at Jiwon. "I need to understand something," Kriva said. "Why did you not take the infant to the shelter? You must have known the cargo bay was dangerous." "Yes," Jiwon said. "I knew, but I also knew that my skills were needed there. And there was no one I could trust with Daeun. She is my daughter. I am responsible for her safety. But you put her in danger," Kriva said. "This is difficult for me to understand. In my species, we protect our young above all else. We would never bring them into such a situation." Jiwon was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was tired but firm. "I am protecting her," Jiwon said. "This job is how I feed her, how I provide for her future. If I had refused to work today, I would have lost this position. And then where would we be? Homeless, starving, that is real danger. The radiation storm was a risk, yes. But abandoning my duty would have been a certainty of failure." Kriva's eyes widened with understanding. "You had to choose between 2 dangers," Kriva said slowly. "And you chose the one where you had some control?" "Yes," Jiwon said. "Exactly. I cannot control solar storms, but I can control my work. I can be good at my job. I can make myself valuable. That is how I keep us safe." Kriva looked at the sleeping baby again. She was beginning to understand something profound about humans. They did not just endure hardship. They calculated it. They chose the lesser danger and faced it with determination. They survived not through strength alone, but through the fierce mathematics of necessity. "You are remarkable," Kriva said. "I am ordinary," Jiwon said. "I am just a mother doing what mothers do. We protect our children any way we can. Perhaps that is what makes humans so strong," Kriva said. "You turn ordinary into extraordinary through necessity." 3 weeks passed after the radiation storm. Ji-won had become a permanent fixture in the cargo bay, Da-eun always on her back during work hours. The crew had settled into a routine around them. But for Kriva, the fascination had only deepened. The first officer had begun keeping notes. Not officially, just personal observations. She wanted to understand this phenomenon. How did the human manage to work so efficiently with an infant attached to her body? How did the child adapt to such an unusual environment? Kriva watched from the upper walkway as Ji-won worked below. The human was calibrating a sensor array while Da-eun babbled happily on her back. The baby had grown more alert over the weeks. Her eyes followed the movements around her with interest. She no longer cried when the ship made sudden noises. She had adapted. Remarkable, Kriva muttered to herself. What is remarkable? A voice asked. Kriva turned to find Sung-min, the ship's medical officer. He was human like Ji-won, though older. His hair was starting to show gray at the temples. He carried a medical kit, the human female and her offspring, Kriva said. I am trying to understand how this arrangement functions. It seems to defy logic. Sung-min looked down at Ji-won and smiled slightly. It is called maternal persistence, he said. Human mothers have been doing this for thousands of years, working while caring for their children. It is not easy, but humans are adaptable creatures. But she must be exhausted, Kriva said. I have calculated the additional weight she carries, the physical strain on her body, the mental energy required to simultaneously work and monitor an infant. It should not be sustainable, and yet she does it, Sung-min said, because the alternative is worse. Do you know her story? No, Kriva admitted. She does not speak of her past. Sung-min was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice low. I ran her medical scan when she joined the crew. There are old injuries, healed fractures, marks that suggest difficult circumstances. I asked her about them as I must for medical records. She told me she left a bad situation. That is all she would say. But I understood. She is alone. She has no family, no support system, just herself and that baby. Kriva's eyes widened. In her species, such isolation was unthinkable. Families were large and interconnected. No one raised young alone. She has nothing? Kriva asked. Nothing but this job, Sung-min confirmed. That is why she works so hard. Why she volunteered during the radiation emergency. Why she never complains or asks for help. She cannot afford to appear weak. She cannot afford to lose this position. For her, failure means losing everything. Kriva felt something unfamiliar in her chest. It took her a moment to identify it. Compassion. Deep, aching compassion for this human who carried such weight alone. We should help her, Kriva said. We are, Sung-min said, in our own ways. Have you noticed? The crew leaves things for her. Water, food, small comforts. Thalric schedules the loudest engine maintenance during Da-eun's sleep hours. Hyunwoo always finds a reason to be nearby when Ji-won has heavy lifting to do. You yourself have reassigned duties to give her more reasonable shifts. Kriva had not realized her actions were so obvious. But yes, she had been making those adjustments. Small things. Nothing that would make Ji-won feel like she was receiving charity. Just quiet support. Why do we pretend not to notice? Kriva asked. Why not offer help openly? Because she has pride, Sung-min said. And she has been hurt before. She does not trust easily. If we make it obvious that we see her struggle, she will feel vulnerable. She will worry that we see her as weak. But if we help quietly, if we pretend not to notice, she can accept the kindness without feeling diminished. Humans are complicated, Kriva observed. Yes, Sung-min agreed with a smile. We are. Down in the cargo bay, Ji-won finished her calibration. She straightened up, one hand automatically reaching back to support Da-eun. The baby had fallen asleep against her mother's back, lulled by the warmth and the gentle rhythm of Ji-won's movements. Ji-won checked her chronometer. It was time for Da-eun's feeding. She made her way to a quiet corner of the bay where she had set up a small rest area. Someone had left a comfortable mat there. She did not know who. Things like that kept appearing. Water bottles exactly when she was thirsty. Nutrient bars and flavors she liked. A soft blanket for Da-eun. She did not question these gifts. She simply accepted them with quiet gratitude. In her experience, kindness was rare. She would not reject it when it appeared, even if she did not fully understand it. She sat down carefully, removed the carrier, and began feeding Da-eun. The baby woke and latched on hungrily. Ji-won stroked her daughter's soft hair and allowed herself a moment of peace. "We are doing okay," she whispered to Da-un. "Better than okay. We have a job. We have a place to sleep. We have enough food. That is more than we had before. That is everything." Da-un's tiny hand wrapped around Ji-won's finger as she fed. The gesture made Ji-won's throat tighten with emotion. This small person trusted her completely. Depended on her absolutely. There was no margin for error, no safety net. Just Ji-won's determination and skill standing between Da-un and a very uncertain future. A shadow fell across them. Ji-won looked up to find Orthak, one of the larger crew members. He was mammalian in appearance, covered in thick fur with powerful arms. He worked in the heavy cargo section. "I apologize for interrupting," Orthak said. His voice was surprisingly gentle for such a large being. "I wanted to ask about the loading sequence for the next port. You had mentioned an optimization." "Of course," Ji-won said. She reached for her tablet with her free hand, managing it one-handed while Da-un continued to feed. She pulled up the loading plan and showed it to Orthak. Orthak watched in fascination as Ji-won explained the sequence, her attention divided between the technical details and her infant. In his species, young were kept in communal nurseries. Mothers visited them during designated times, but they did not carry them constantly. The idea had always seemed inefficient to him, but watching Ji-won, he began to understand something deeper. The constant contact was not just about childcare. It was about bonding, about the child learning trust and safety from the mother's presence, about the mother knowing instantly if something was wrong with her offspring. "Your young is healthy," Orthak observed. "Yes," Ji-won said with a small smile. "She is thriving. The ship environment agrees with her." "You have done well," Orthak said. "In my species, we believe that the strength of the parent determines the strength of the offspring. Your young will be strong because you are strong." Ji-won felt unexpected tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means more than you know." Orthak nodded and left. He did not mention the moisture in Ji-won's eyes. He pretended not to notice, as the crew had learned to do. But as he walked away, he felt moved by what he had witnessed. The human's fierce love for her offspring was beautiful in its own way. That evening, Ji-won worked an extra shift. The ship was approaching a major trading port, and there was inventory to prepare. Da-un had been fed and changed, content in her carrier. Ji-won moved through the cargo bay with her tablet, checking manifests and marking crates. She was so focused on her work that she did not notice Hyunwoo approaching until he spoke. "You have been on duty for 12 hours, he said. "You should rest. I want to finish this section," Ji-won said. "The port inspection is tomorrow. Everything needs to be perfect. It is already perfect," Hyunwoo said. "You have checked it 3 times. Ji-won, you need to take care of yourself. For Da-un's sake, if not your own." Ji-won stopped walking. She stood still, her back to Hyunwoo. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I am afraid," she admitted. "I am afraid that if I stop, if I show any weakness, they will decide I am not worth keeping. That Da-un is too much of a liability, and if I lose this job, I lose everything. Do you understand?" "Everything." Hyunwoo felt his heart clench. He moved to stand beside her, careful not to startle her. "You are not going to lose this job," he said firmly. "You are the best cargo specialist this ship has ever had. Captain Vexlar said so himself. You are not weak, Ji-won. You are the strongest person on this crew. We all see it, even if you cannot." Ji-won turned to look at him. In the dim light of the cargo bay, her face showed the exhaustion she usually hid so well. "I am so tired," she confessed. "I am tired all the time. But I cannot stop. I cannot fail her." "You are not failing her," Hyunwoo said. "You are giving her everything. But you also need rest. Let me finish this section. Go to your quarters. Sleep. Da-un needs you to be healthy." Ji-won hesitated. She was not used to accepting help, but the weariness in her bones was becoming impossible to ignore. "Okay," she said finally. "Thank you, Hyunwoo. For everything. That is what crew is for," he said with a gentle smile. "We take care of each other." In her quarters that night, Ji-won laid Da-un in the small crib and then collapsed on her own bunk. She was asleep within seconds, so exhausted that she did not even dream. Elsewhere on the ship, the crew continued their quiet support. Min Seo, the communications officer, had been documenting something. She had been tracking Ji-won's performance metrics since the day she arrived. The data was impressive. Cargo accuracy rates had improved by 40%. Loading efficiency was up 30%. Equipment damage was down to nearly zero. The fever started in the middle of the night. Dayun woke up crying, her small body hot to the touch. Ji-won knew immediately that something was wrong. After 4 months on the stellar drift, she had learned her daughter's every sound and mood. This was different. This was distress. Ji-won checked Da-eun's temperature with the medical scanner Sungmin had given her. 39 degrees. High but not dangerous yet. She cooled the baby with damp cloths and tried to soothe her. Da-eun cried fitfully, refusing to be comforted. By morning, the fever had not broken. Ji-won was exhausted from the sleepless night, her eyes red and her movements slow. But she dressed for work as usual. She could not afford to miss a shift. Not now, when a major inspection was approaching. She went to the medical bay first. Songmin examined Da-eun carefully. It appears to be a viral infection, he said. Common in infants. Nothing serious, but she will be uncomfortable for a few days. She needs rest, fluids, and monitoring. Can I still work? Ji-won asked. Sungmin looked at her with concern. Ji-won, she needs rest. That means quiet, calm environment, not the cargo bay with its noise and activity. I know, Ji-won said, but the inspection is in 2 days. Every crew member is needed. I cannot let the team down. You need rest too, Sungmin said firmly. You look exhausted. If you wear yourself out, you will get sick as well. Then who will care for Da-eun? Ji-won knew he was right. But she also knew that missing work during this critical time could make her seem unreliable. She had worked so hard to prove herself. She could not risk that now. I will be careful, she promised. I will rest when I can. But I need to work today, Sungmin sighed. He could see the determination in her eyes. He knew he could not change her mind. At least let me give you something to help with the fever, he said. And promise me you will take breaks. For Da-eun's sake, I promise, Ji-won said. She went to the cargo bay with Da-eun in the carrier as always. But today was harder. Da-eun fussed constantly, too uncomfortable to sleep. Ji-won worked one-handed, the other reaching back frequently to comfort her daughter. Her concentration was divided. Her movements were slower than usual. Hyun-woo noticed immediately. Is she sick? He asked, nodding toward Da-eun. Just a fever, Ji-won said. Sungmin says it is not serious. She will be fine in a few days. You should rest, Hyun-woo said. We can manage without you for a day or two. The inspection, Ji-won reminded him. Everyone needs to be at their best. I can work, Hyun-woo wanted to argue, but he saw the set of Ji-won's jaw. He had learned to recognize that expression. It meant she had made up her mind and nothing would change it. At least let me handle the heavy containers today, he said. Ji-won nodded gratefully. She directed Hyun-woo through the work, her hands busy with the lighter tasks. Da-eun continued to cry, the sound cutting through the cargo bay. Ji-won bounced gently as she worked, trying to soothe the baby. By midday, Ji-won was struggling. The lack of sleep combined with Da-eun's constant distress was wearing her down. Her hands shook slightly as she operated the cargo controls. She made a small mistake in the loading sequence, something she had never done before. Kriva saw the error and corrected it immediately, saying nothing. But she watched Ji-won with growing concern. The human was pushing herself too hard. This was not sustainable. That evening, the situation grew worse. Da-eun's crying became more intense. Ji-won walked the corridors of the ship, bouncing and rocking, trying everything to comfort her daughter. Nothing worked. The baby was miserable, and so was Ji-won. She returned to the cargo bay for the night shift. Captain Vexler had called all hands for final preparations before the inspection. Ji-won could not miss it. She would not miss it. The crew assembled in the bay. Captain Vexler began explaining the inspection procedures. His voice was clear and commanding, but it was difficult to hear him over Da-eun's crying. Ji-won tried to quiet the baby, rocking and patting, but Da-eun was beyond soothing now. The crying grew louder. Ji-won felt every eye on her. Her face burned with embarrassment and worry. I apologize, Captain, Ji-won said, her voice strained. She's not feeling well. I am trying to calm her. Perhaps you should take her to your quarters, Captain Vexler suggested gently. I need to hear the inspection briefing, Ji-won said. I will stay. I apologize for the disturbance. She stood at the back of the group, bouncing Da-eun desperately. The baby's cries echoed through the bay. Ji-won tried to focus on the captain's words, but exhaustion and worry clouded her mind. She missed parts of the briefing, her attention split between her job and her suffering child. After the briefing ended, Sungmin approached her. Ji-won, You need to stop, he said firmly. You are exhausted. Dayun is sick. You both need rest. I cannot stop, Ji-won said. Her voice cracked with emotion. The inspection is tomorrow. I have to be ready. I have to prove that I can do this. You have already proven yourself, Sungmin said. No one doubts your abilities. But you are human, Ji-won. You have limits. You need to rest. I cannot afford limits, Ji-won said. If I show weakness, if I fail, they will decide that having a baby on the ship is too much trouble. I will lose everything. That will not happen, Sungmin insisted. You do not know that, Ji-won said. She was close to tears now. You cannot promise that. I have to keep going. I have to keep proving myself. Every single day, Sungmin saw the fear in her eyes, the deep bone-level terror of losing her security. He understood then that this was not about pride or stubbornness. This was about survival instinct. Ji-won believed that any sign of weakness would destroy the life she had built for Da-eun. Let me help you at least, he said. I can watch Da-eun for a few hours while you get some sleep. No, Ji-won said immediately. She is my responsibility. I cannot put that burden on anyone else. It is not a burden, Sungmin said. It is what crew does. We help each other, but Ji-won shook her head. She could not accept that level of help. It felt too much like giving up, like admitting she could not handle her situation. She thanked Sungmin and retreated to her quarters with Da-eun still crying in her arms. The night was endless. Da-eun cried and cried. Ji-won walked, rocked, sang softly. Nothing helped. By dawn, both of them were exhausted. Da-eun finally fell into a fitful sleep. Ji-won had maybe 30 minutes of rest before her alarm signaled the start of the inspection day. She dressed like a person moving through deep water. Every motion required immense effort. She looked at herself in the small mirror. Her eyes were hollow. Her skin was pale. She looked like she was barely holding on. Because she was, but she went to the cargo bay anyway. The inspectors would arrive in 2 hours. Every crew member needed to be at their station, ready and professional. Ji-won would not be the weak link. She would not fail her crew. Da-eun woke as they reached the bay. The baby's crying started immediately, loud and distressed. Ji-won tried to soothe her while reviewing the cargo manifests on her tablet. Her hands trembled with exhaustion. The inspection team arrived precisely on time. They were a mixed species group, professional and thorough. They began their examination of the cargo systems. Captain Vexler accompanied them, answering questions and presenting documentation. Ji-won stood at her station, ready to provide information if needed. Da-eun's crying continued. Ji-won bounced and patted, her face flushed with embarrassment and exhaustion. She tried to look professional, tried to focus, but her vision was starting to blur. One of the inspectors, a rigid bureaucratic type from a species that valued order above all, stopped in front of Ji-won. His expression showed clear disapproval. This is highly irregular, he said. An infant in a working cargo bay during an official inspection. This does not meet professional standards. Ji-won felt her world beginning to crumble. I apologize, sir, she began. My daughter is ill. I would not normally bring her during an inspection, but I needed to be here to support my team. Your personal circumstances are not relevant, the inspector said coldly. Professional standards must be maintained. I am recommending that this crew member be removed from duty immediately. Ji-won felt the blood drain from her face. This was it. The moment she had feared. She was losing everything. She opened her mouth to argue, to beg, to do anything to save her position. But before she could speak, Captain Vexler stepped forward. Inspector, the captain said, his voice carrying the full weight of his authority. I must respectfully disagree. Specialist Ji-won has proven to be the most capable cargo specialist this vessel has ever employed. Her presence during this inspection is essential. The inspector frowned. Be that as it may, this situation is unprofessional. Unprofessional? Kriva stepped forward now. Her scales glittered as she moved. Let me tell you about professional. 3 months ago, this crew member organized a complete cargo bay overhaul in record time. 6 weeks ago, during a radiation emergency, she saved this ship and all our lives with her quick thinking and expertise. Her performance metrics exceed standard requirements by 40%. That is professional. Hyunwoo joined them, standing beside Ji-won. She works harder than anyone on this crew, he said. She never complains. She never takes shortcuts. She is reliable, skilled, and dedicated. If that is not professional, I do not know what is. Thalrix glided down from the upper level. 6 months had passed since the inspection day. Taehyun was now 1 year old and had taken her first wobbly steps in the cargo bay. Ji-won had been there to catch her, laughing with joy as her daughter discovered the miracle of walking. The crew had cheered, treating the milestone as if Da-eun belonged to all of them, and in a way she did. Da-eun was no longer just Ji-won's daughter. She was the ship's child. Thalrix taught her to recognize different species. Kriva showed her how to identify cargo markings. Orthek let her touch his soft fur. Hyunwoo made small toys for her from scrap metal. The entire crew had fallen in love with the tiny human who had grown up among them. Ji-won had changed too. She no longer carried the constant tension that had defined her first months aboard. She smiled more easily. She accepted help without feeling like she was failing. She had learned to trust her crew, to believe that they truly valued her and Da-eun. On this particular morning, Ji-won was in the cargo bay reviewing the loading schedule when Captain Vexelar's voice came over the communications system. All senior staff to the conference room. We have a new crew member joining us today. Ji-won had been promoted to shift supervisor 2 months earlier. She still felt a surge of pride every time she was included in senior staff meetings. She secured Da-eun in the carrier and made her way to the conference room. The other senior staff were already assembled. Captain Vexelar stood at the head of the table. Beside him was a human man Ji-won did not recognize. He looked nervous, his eyes darting around the room. On his back was a carrier similar to Ji-won's, and in it was a small boy, perhaps 2 years old, with wide, curious eyes. Ji-won felt her heart squeeze with recognition. She knew that look, the nervous tension, the protective way the man held himself, the fear barely hidden behind a professional expression. She had worn that same look on her first day aboard the Stellar Drift. "This is Taehyun," Captain Vexelar announced. "He will be joining us as a cargo specialist. And this is his son, Jun Tae-hyun," nodded to the assembled crew, his movements stiff with tension. "I apologize for bringing my son," he said quickly. "My childcare situation changed suddenly. I would not have accepted this position if I had known, but I need the work. I promise it will not affect my performance. I can do the job. He will not be a problem." The words were almost exactly what Ji-won had said on her first day. She felt tears prick her eyes. This man was where she had been, desperate, afraid, trying so hard to prove he could manage an impossible situation. Ji-won stood and moved around the table. She approached Taehyun with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Stellar Drift," she said. "I am Ji-won. I am also a parent working on this ship." She turned slightly so Taehyun could see Da-eun on her back. The little girl waved at the new crew member with a bright smile. Taehyun's eyes widened with surprise and relief. "You work with your daughter here?" he asked. "Every day for 10 months now," Ji-won confirmed. "You and Jun are not the first, and you will not be treated differently because of your circumstances. Here, we judge people by their capabilities, not their situations." Captain Vexelar clicked his mandibles in what Ji-won had learned was approval. "Specialist Ji-won is correct," the captain said. "When she first joined this crew, I had doubts about the arrangement. But she proved that those doubts were based on my own limited understanding. She has taught us that humans can balance multiple responsibilities with remarkable skill. Because of her example, we have revised our crew policies." Kriva stepped forward with a data pad. "We now have official accommodations for crew members with dependent young," she explained. "Flexible shift arrangements, access to childcare resources, protected rest periods. These policies were created based on what we learned from working with Ji-won and Da-eun." Taehyun looked overwhelmed. "I do not know what to say," he managed. "I have worked on 7 other ships. None of them would even consider hiring me once they learned about Jun. I thought I would have to lie or hide him. I was prepared to work twice as hard to prove myself." "You will still need to work hard," Captain Vexelar said. "We have high standards, but you will not be penalized for being a parent. You will be evaluated on your skills and your dedication to the work. Nothing more, nothing less." Hyunwoo smiled at Taehyun. "Ji-won will show you the ropes," he said. "She knows all the tricks for managing cargo work with a child on your back. She is the best teacher you could ask for." After the meeting, Ji-won walked with Taehyun to the cargo bay. Taehyun and Jun looked at each other with the curious intensity of very young children. Jun reached out a small hand toward Da-eun and she giggled. "They will be friends," Ji-won said with a smile. "Taehyun has not had another child to play with since she was born. This will be good for her. Can I ask you something?" Taehyun said hesitantly. How do you do it? How do you work so efficiently with a child strapped to your back? It seems impossible. It is not impossible, Jiwon said. It is just different. You learn to work one-handed. You learn to anticipate your child's needs so they stay calm. You learn which tasks you can do while wearing them and which tasks require help. And you accept that help when it is offered. She showed him the cargo bay, explaining the systems and procedures. She pointed out the quiet corners where he could feed Jun or let him rest. She explained which crew members were most helpful with different tasks. The crew here is special, Jiwon said. They pretend not to notice your struggles, but they see everything. They will help you in quiet ways. Accept that help. It is not charity. It is what crew does for each other. Taehyun listened carefully, his tension slowly easing. He watched how Jiwon moved through the cargo bay with confidence, Da-eun secure on her back. He saw how the other crew members acknowledged her with respect. He began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he had found a place where he and Jun could truly belong. Over the following weeks, Taehyun proved to be an excellent cargo specialist. Like Jiwon, he was dedicated and detail-oriented. He learned quickly and never complained about the challenges of working with Jun on his back. The two children became inseparable during off-duty hours, playing together in the safe areas of the ship, while their parents watched with grateful hearts. Word of the Stellar Drift's family-friendly policies began to spread through the commercial shipping networks. Other ships started to take notice. Captains who had previously refused to hire parents with young children began reconsidering their policies. The data was clear. Jiwon and now Taehyun were among the highest-performing crew members in the fleet. Their parental responsibilities had not diminished their value. If anything, the discipline required to balance work and childcare had made them more efficient and focused. Fleet administrators began referring to the new policies as the Jiwon Standard. It became a benchmark for inclusive crew management. Ships that adopted similar policies found that they attracted highly motivated, loyal crew members who had been overlooked by traditional hiring practices. Jiwon heard about this recognition through Minseo, who monitored fleet communications. They are calling it the Jiwon Standard, Minseo told her. Other ships are implementing policies based on what you proved was possible. You have changed the entire fleet's approach to crew diversity. Jiwon was stunned. I did not do anything special, she protested. I was just trying to survive. To provide for Da-eun. That is exactly the point, Minseo said. You did what needed to be done. You proved that parents can be excellent crew members if given the chance. You changed minds by simply being yourself and doing your job well. One evening, several months after Taehyun joined the crew, Kriva requested a private meeting with Jiwon. They sat in the observation lounge looking out at the stars. Da-eun was asleep in her carrier, peaceful and content. I wanted to thank you, Kriva said. For what? Jiwon asked, surprised. For teaching me about strength, Kriva said. When you first arrived on this ship, I did not understand. I thought you were being reckless, bringing an infant into a dangerous environment. I thought you were putting your child at risk. Kriva paused, her scales shimmering in the starlight. But I was wrong, she continued. You were not being reckless. You were being brave. You were protecting your daughter in the only way available to you. You were providing for her future by refusing to give up on your career. You taught me that strength is not about never struggling. It is about continuing forward despite the struggle. Jiwon felt tears well up in her eyes. I was so scared, she admitted. Every day for the first months I was terrified. Terrified that I would fail. That I would lose everything. That Da-eun would suffer because I was not enough. But you were enough, Kriva said. More than enough. And you taught this entire crew what it means to carry on when circumstances are difficult. You taught us about loyalty and dedication, about protecting what you love no matter the cost. She reached out and gently touched Da-eun's small hand. This young one is fortunate, Kriva said. She has a mother who would move mountains for her, and she has a crew that will always protect her. She will grow up knowing she is valued and loved. That is a precious gift. Jiwon wiped her eyes. Thank you, she said, for everything, for giving us a chance, for supporting us, for becoming our family. Kriva's eyes glinted with emotion.